Welcome to Voices from the Bench, a dental laboratory podcast. Send us an email at info@voicesfromthebench.com or look for us on Facebook at Voices from the Bench. Greetings and welcome to Voices from the Bench. We are at episode number 7. My name is Elvis Dahl from Summer Dental Laboratories in Zionsville, Indiana.
Hey guys, I'm Barbara Wojin from Knight Dental Group, Oldsmar, Florida. Happy to be here.
So today we're going to continue our conversation with Judy Fishman, CEO and publisher of LMT Magazine. Not only does she put out a great publication, but she also puts on one of the best events our industry does every year. She actually does it more than once, but I only go up to Chicago, and I'm talking about LMT Lab Day. Not only is this event just so important to our industry, and so many new things are launched and released during those 1.5 days. It's amazing how our industry has banded together to be around it. You know, it's only for half a Friday and a Saturday, yet here I am. I go up on Wednesday because there's so many other meetings that meet during the same time of the year. And it's wonderful how we have one central location. I get to see so many people I don't get to see very often. I meet so many new people. It's one of the best things our industry does.
Yep, and it attracts people from all over the world, too. I mean, there's just, thousands and thousands of people that go for the great education and the great city of Chicago, and just because they love Judy. Yeah, so we're really excited to bring you all of this awesome information. We're really excited about LMT, Judy, and Lab Day. So here we go.
Voices from the Bench. The interview.
The integrity of our editorial product.
That's great.
Can we switch over to LMT Lab Day? Elvis, are you good with that?
Absolutely.
So I've got a question for you, Judy. It's the most famous of them all. Everybody from everywhere loves going to Chicago. They love going in February. I love going in February because I'm from Florida, but those of there that were in the snow. But tell me about when you started it. What year or when, or how did you come up with the idea?
Opportunity knocked. Again, going back to my publishing life before dental, the publishing company I worked at in Manhattan had a trade show affiliated with one of the magazines, not one of the ones I worked on, but one in the apartment and construction industry. And it was a home building business, and it had a trade show. And in the back of my mind, I thought, wow, that's brilliant. Someday I would really love to have a trade show attached to a magazine, and everybody would go to Florida and hang out at the beach and have a good time and also learn. That was kind of in the back of my head when I started LMT. And that same year, so it's September, it was our first issue. Christmas week, everything was very quiet. The phones were quiet. And basically, I have no employees at this point. I have a couple of freelance people helping, and my brother was helping, and my husband was helping. And it's Christmas week, and I'm on the phone with Dan Smith, who the Vertex Articulator, KV33, it was originally the Vertex Articulator. Anyway, he and I are on the phone, and he's telling me that this year the Chicago Dental Society is going to be at McCormick Place while the Hilton is being renovated. So he doesn't know if the companies, Dentsply and Ceramco, were always at the Blackstone Hotel across the street from the Hilton. And Jelenko had something called Jelenko Lab Day. Aha. And it was tabletop displays on the first floor of the Blackstone Hotel, while Dentsply and Ceramco had their own separate programs. They were separate companies. And he said that he is going to be exhibiting at the Chicago Dental Society meeting at the CBS midwinter, and he's noticing that the contract says that he may not have a program anywhere else. And he wanted to display his products specifically to the lab community, and wondered if I knew whether or not Dentsply and Ceramco and Jelenko were going to be at the Blackstone again, because it was against the rules of the CDS. So I said, I don't know. Let me find out. So I called the Blackstone and I asked them if they had Dentsply and Ceramco under contract. And they said, actually, they do. And I said, what about Jelenko? And they said, no, Jelenko did not take its space. I said, okay, would you please hold that space in the name of Dental Lab Publications? That was the name of our company at the time. And they said, certainly. And I said, I'll call you back. And I called Dan and I said, nope, the first floor is available, so I have a hold on it. You want a table? And within 5 days or 3 days, something like that, Dan got on the phone with a whole bunch of other guys who used to take a table through Jelenko because they were non-competing products and said, it's a go. They all want in. And I said, I think I can do it for $200. We're not going to make any money, but at least we'll keep the thing going. So we did. We had 300 something people, I think, and they paid $200 and I sold 31 tables.
Yeah.
I guess it was 29 companies. The last 2 tables, I was at 29 the day of the DMA show, preview show, the day before Chicago. And Bruno Pozzi came up to me and said, can I have 2 tables at your show tomorrow? And I said, sure.
Wow.
And that was our first lab day. Really very quickly put together nothing. And I was like a carnival barker in the hallway of the very dingy main area of that first floor where everybody was into tiny little dark rooms doing their displays. And we did door prizes. So I was calling out, okay, door prize to so-and-so on the handwritten registration coupon they filled out.
Were there classes or was it just vendor tables?
No, just tabletop displays. And then Ceramco and Dentsply and I went out to lunch afterwards and we did like one of those all for one and one for all kind of things where we put our hands literally on top of one another in the center of the table.
Wow.
And said, all right, this is a pledge. Where you go, we go. We all stick together. We're going to make this work.
That's really cool.
That's how it started.
So give me a comparison. So you had 31 to start with. How many do you have now? If you were to think of how many vendors show at your show.
I think it's 310 tables, not vendors.
It seems like 3,000. I mean, really.
Oh, yes.
It seems like a lot. Was this year was your biggest attended show, right?
Yes, it was crazy. 4,600 people and almost 600 dentists.
I heard that.
Yeah, and we're planning to do some follow-up with them to see if we can find out how many of them are prosthodontists versus general dentists, etc., and find out a little bit more about them.
Absolutely. I know of 2 general dentists that went over there on Saturday to take some classes, especially on 3D printing, because they're interested in it, but yet their side of the convention didn't really offer it as much.
That's what we heard too. We heard dental blogs were talking about how you could see everything at our show that they needed to learn about.
Do you think that the blogs were a reason that the dentists, that you had more dentists come this year than ever?
We're going to find out when we ask them if they respond to our survey. We're going to ask them how they heard about
That's
us.
awesome. Was the first one held in the same time as Midwinter?
Yes.
And is that why it's still? So it's always been that time of the year?
Yes. And again, it was not without its would-be competitors as well. The Illinois Dental Lab Association was very miffed at us because we did this. Apparently, there was some disagreement among the board members that some wanted to do a show during the midwinter and others didn't want to. And that's why it was always in September or October. They had something called the Mid-America Conference, the MAC.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard a lot of complaints from manufacturers that people were all in the clinics and courses and not on the exhibit floor, and that it was a big waste of money for the manufacturers. They'd rather just give money to donate to the association to hold educational programs rather than have all their people come out and stand on the floor with nobody to sell to.
Yeah.
So they were upset, and I didn't even think about it when I started. It was a half a year away, and it didn't even occur to me that it might upend their show, but it did end up killing their show.
Wow. When did you start doing the LMT days on the East and West Coast? And why?
We started Lab Day West pretty soon after we started Lab Day Chicago. I think it was within 4 years we did the West Coast because, again, we didn't see anything happening much down in this in the California area, and we knew how many laboratories there are in California. It was crazy that it didn't have some kind of big show representing it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we tried to schedule it on the same weekend as the California Dental Association meeting to make it easier on the manufacturers. At least we thought it was easier. But, it was sometimes difficult because they had limited staff members to cover both venues. But, it worked out. And then we separated the timing by doing a survey on site one year saying if we moved this show to a weekend when it wasn't the same as the CDA, would you still come? And based on the response, we knew that it was safe to do that. So we split away from that. Lab Day East was harder to figure out. The International Congress of Dental Technology, the New York Association program, was starting to have some problems. There were politics getting involved. And we just tested the water with a show called Technology 2000. So that was really the first Lab Day East. And we didn't intend for it to be Lab Day East necessarily. It's just that we wanted to have some a CAD-CAM program. This precluded the CAD-CAM Symposium out west. Mm-hmm. So we just had a CAD-CAM program the day before having booths. And that worked out pretty well enough for us to feel that there was enough of a market on the East Coast to continue. And so we have continued it. It's definitely not as big by any, it's a tiny show in comparison to Chicago.
So why is Chicago so big? Is it just because it's the oldest one and it coincides with midwinter, or do you think there's another reason?
My feeling is that it's centrally located at a time of year when there's already a lot of other things going on in Chicago, and it's easy for people to get in and out, and we have the space to grow.
Yeah, I always hear a lot of people mention they're always surprised by the different languages they hear down on the floor. Do you get a lot of international people?
Yes, we do. And this year we had representatives from 61 countries.
Wow, that is incredible. I don't even know of 61 countries. That's amazing.
We often have to hire a person for hearing impaired attendees at our shows. All three shows have had that.
Really?
In the past. I don't know if we had one this year, but in general, we have hearing impaired people come and they have somebody with them. There's some people bring translators with them. When they bring hearing impaired, we're obligated to pay the cost of their translator, and they appreciate it very much.
Yeah, things you don't think about running a convention. Huh?
Yeah.
Interesting. I love Lab Day, and one of these days I'd love to go to Lab Day West. What time of the year is that in?
It's May. It usually is Mother's Day weekend because that's when we're able to get the space in the hotel. Mm-hmm. I think it's on Mother's. No, I think it's May 18th and 19th this year, mm-hmm. Actually. So maybe the week after Mother's Day. And it's very nice because it's laid back. It's not the go of Chicago.
Yeah.
It's still a buying show and interest and education and everything, but everybody's kind of ready for the summer. And you could just feel that vibe, and it's really lovely.
Yeah, I get that. So to switch gears a little bit, the 2018 Cal Lab meeting, you were the keynote speaker, I think on the final day?
No, it was on Thursday.
Was it on Thursday? Okay. Talking about state of the industry, and you made some really good points. And I was wondering if you could touch upon some of that. What was the biggest impact you saw in the industry last year?
I think the biggest piece of news for us as it may impact our magazine and our future and the industry as a whole is this whole blurring of the lines among the specialties, that it's, at some point we won't be able to ask, are you a C&B lab, a full service lab, an ortho or a removable prosthetics lab. It'll be just you can do it all. You're a digital lab. So between that and hearing that intraoral scanners had record-breaking sales at Zahn this year, and being that's, I've always been told, would be the tipping point because that's when the remake factor will be greatly reduced. I think those two things together for me were the most promising pieces of news for exciting future challenges.
I know for me at my laboratory right now, we've gone from about 10 intraoral scans a day to we're about 80 right now. And one of our largest dentist client customers, one of our largest DSOs, just emailed us a couple days ago and said they want to put 500 intraoral scanners into their offices in the next 6 months and then 500 after that.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's just... So, yeah, so I think that echoes exactly what your point is. And I see it at my laboratory right now more than ever. So I agree.
Oh, my.
Yeah, 500 and 500. I'm like, how do you prepare for that? I mean, those are astronomical numbers. So we need to get it together.
What scanner are they getting? Do you know?
It's a Sirona. I think it's a Sirona iTero.
Wow.
They're doing the iTeros. And we do the best with those too. So, we like that.
Yeah, the iTero is a good scanner. Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. And I understand that there are some dentists who are still pouring models because they're not trusting their scans. Probably a good thing because they're not always very thorough.
A bad impression's still going to be a bad impression, whether you're taking a traditional impression or you're scanning it. But luckily, they get to see what they're doing when they scan it. I think that's the biggest thing.
And it'll be nice not to have bloody impressions coming into the laboratory anymore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you see technology growing too fast right now?
I wouldn't put it as too fast. I would say that we're having trouble keeping up. I think it's a worldwide issue. It's not just dental. Just even finding this microphone for the podcast. There's just so much available that it's not a problem. It's just incredibly exciting. It's just a very exciting time, and you just have to make sure you get enough sleep so that you don't have brain fog.
Yeah, the hardest part is just learning the differences between everything. There's a lot out there.
I know. My son's 20, and I'm teaching him how to layer ceramics, and he was learning the iOS inputting today with our digital area. So I agree. I'm a big proponent of generational technicians. My dad was a technician. My son's one, and so yeah, it's something to be proud of. I agree.
That's why it's good to have a 10-year-old son in the tech world.
Thanks.
I heard that there's been a increase of technicians out there, but a decrease in the amount of labs. Have you noticed this, and why do you think this is?
I could surmise that the reason there might be more technicians is because if a lot of laboratories closed, there are a lot of technicians looking for more opportunities that used to be employed by these laboratories. Because I can tell you that the decrease in laboratories is not coming only from the 1 to 5 person sector. Not at all. There are large laboratories that are getting leaner and downsizing or having extra technicians that they have no need for and can't repurpose. And there are mid-sized laboratories that are closing down, and those technicians can group together and form a new lab on their own, like what Denise did after she left oral arts. That's what I would say is the reason.
No, it all makes sense. Absolutely. Well, I appreciate this. I thought this was very interesting. I never knew this about the start of the magazine. I appreciate you sharing that story with us.
It's interesting how my heart rate went up even after years, just in recalling the trials and tribulations of those early years. Do you know I logged 115 hours a week in those that I guess the first maybe 8 months of getting this. I just rolled out of bed in the morning down to my family room and rolled up to bed at night. Didn't even take lunch until I became pregnant with Eric. And one day Jim, at this point, Jim and Kelly were working at the company a year later, and he basically sat me down at the kitchen table and put a roast beef sandwich in front of my face and said, "Judy, from now on, our company takes lunch. Eat. You need this for the baby." And I said to him, this is the best sentence I ever had. I meant sandwich, of course.
It's no wonder you're so successful then with that much hard work. Nothing comes easily, and you proved that to all of us. So thank you so much for your stories and for answering our questions. We genuinely appreciate it, and we're honored to have you.
Oh, thanks so much.
Absolutely. And it goes to show that's why the magazine is so good, and that's why Lab Day is so successful.
No, it's because It's my team. I got to say it's my team, but thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. I look forward to the future issues, and we'll definitely see you in Chicago next year.
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much.
I look forward to it. Thank
Bye.
you.
Take care. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
I again want to thank Judy Fishman for being interviewed. She did a great job, and I love the stories that she told.
That's what we call the amazing Judy Fishman, and she has all my respect. Love her to death. I'm so happy that she agreed to be interviewed, and really, really grateful we get to share it with the world.
Who knows, maybe one day we'll have a booth there, Barbara, and we'll be able to record people live on the floor at LMT. One of the things I really like about LMT Lab Day is somehow they're still able to keep it free. It is amazing that such a thing is put on and given to our industry at no cost to the attendee. If you can make it, I highly suggest it. Join us next week for a roundtable episode. Heather Voss, CDT, from the first roundtable, helped me get in touch with 3 individuals that are from labs that have 3 or less employees. Most are solo. It's a great chance to see a perspective of our industry that's not usually discussed at conferences. It's a fascinating conversation, and I hope you join us. As always, if you have any suggestions, if you have any topics, if you want to be interviewed or know someone that wants to be interviewed or should be interviewed, send us an email at info@voicesfromthebench.com. We're on Facebook, so check us out. Hit the like button and hit share anytime we post something. Spread the word. We want this content to be available to all of those in the industry. There's so many great ways to listen to this podcast. Not only can you listen to it directly from voicesfromthebench.com, but we're also on iTunes, Stitcher, and now Google Play. Any of these, you can search for Voices from the Bench, download our episodes, subscribe, and they'll be delivered to you every Monday morning.
We'll see you all next week. Have a great week.
All right. Bye. Greetings and welcome to Voices from...